And welcome, Mindsetters, to this session of Learn Extra Live doing grade 12 life science. I hope you guys are ready. You've got your pens and pads out and you're ready to make notes. I've got Aslam here. He was going to be doing today's show. So, what are you doing today?
So we're doing environment stuff and we're talking about community ecology.
Okay, no problem.
Interesting stuff.
All right, awesome. So while Aslam makes his way across the board, Mindsetters, as I always say, make sure you get chatting to me on the Facebook page. Talk to me. I can't help you if you don't help me by telling me what's wrong. So on that note, Mindsetters, I cannot stress enough. Chat to me. Let me know what's wrong, if you're lost, and if you need help. But make sure you have your pens and pads out and you're making notes. And remember the page, www.facebook.com/learnextra. But on that note, this is where I hand over to Aslam. Aslam, take it away.
Thank you, Ty. Welcome, guys, and let's get cracking into the section. Just remember that this section on environment, this is one part of it, but the section on environment is 40% of paper 2. So you need to make sure that you know this work well so that you can score. Also, I must add that this section is fairly the easiest of all the topics that you have, and therefore you should not waste time when doing this type of work in terms of getting as much marks as possible. So stay with me, keep those questions rolling, whatever is bothering you, send it through, let's deal with that today. Just to give you a quick overview of what we are looking at, and if you look at the screen there, we're looking at community ecology. Now, what was important today, my very good friend Hamida Musa, we were sitting together, and as I was sending one last slide through for the show, she told me that learners always make a mistake in terms of confusing these 4 headings. The 4 main headings in community ecology are social organization, community structure, human influence, and community change. Now, the 2 that are confused are these 2 here. This one here and that one there. Social organization and community structure. So please, guys, listen carefully as we're going to go through the slides so that you know exactly where we are and where we're going to. In terms of social organization, we look at herds and flocks. We'll need to change the color there. Herds and flocks. And guys, when we're talking of herds and flocks, we'll look at an example just now maybe. We're looking at herds and flocks where it is a protective mechanism. And herds and flocks are generally, is generally a way in which the prey, those that are being hunted, protect themselves against the predator. The next one is hunting in packs. These 2 also, learners confuse the 2. They confuse the hunting in packs with herds and flocks. They are not the same. Like I said, herds and flocks, mainly the prey will use it. Hunting in packs, obviously hunting in packs, the hunters will practice that. In other words, the predators. We'll talk about when we look at the example just now. Then we have breeding hierarchies. Breeding hierarchies means that in a particular population, there would be only one or a select few pairs that will be able to mate. The others will not mate in that time until the dominant pair wanes out or they are outcompeted and they move out of the population. And then the next pair will take over from there. The last one is division of labor. Division of labor, something we should all be doing in our houses, where everybody has something to do. Division, divide of labor, the work. So division of labor is something that nature itself shows us. Ants, bees, different types of insects, different types of organisms, they have different functions within a colony or within a population. So each particular organism has a role to play. And in that way, the work becomes light. Many hands make work light. Okay? Next one is community structure. Now look how this one differs from this one here. Here we are talking about how the population is organized to make them survive or to make them proceed without harm. Community structure is what is happening within that community. And under that, we have three main headings, and they are predation or predator-prey relationship, competition, and symbiosis. Predation is very straightforward. Predation is a process where one organism, the predator, hunts, kills, and eats the prey. So it must hunt, it must kill, and it must be for food. The prey must be there for food. Then we consider that a predator-prey relationship, or in one word, predation. Competition, there are a few two important ones first. These two here on top. Interspecific and intraspecific. Now, you all are at school, or were at school at some time, and you would have inter-class debates, or inter-school debates, or inter-school sport, between two different classes, inter-class, inter-school between two different schools. So, interspecific, between two different species. So, interspecific competition would be between two different species. And intra, if you remember your grade 10 work, you would have spoken about intracellular digestion. And in the grade 11 work also, when you're looking at the digestive system, you talk about intracellular digestion. That would mean inside the cell. Inside, in this case, intraspecific. So, within the same species. That would be intraspecific competition. Next up there would be, I just want to extend the page a little bit so we go a bit higher. Good. Resource partitioning. And we're going to look at the question dealing with resource partitioning a little later. So I'm not going to go into too much detail with that. The question itself will explain this concept. Sometimes it's better to deal with a question, and as the answers of those questions unfold, the topic itself presents itself to you, instead of learning chunks of text and then trying to answer it later. Sometimes it's another angle of going into something like this. And because these are fairly common sense ideas, it would be easier to look at it by means of questions. The last one there, competitive exclusion. The word exclusion is the key there, where there would be one winner and one loser. So one of the organisms would win, and therefore they would have the resource that's there. In symbiosis, there are three, and guys, when we're talking about symbiosis, this is something that hasn't started today in grade 12 for you. Symbiosis, you have been introduced to this concept in grade 3 or 4 already in your natural science classes, NS classes. So this is not something new. Again, and whether you did it in grade 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, these terminology do not change. Mutualism will still be mutualism. It can't change. Right, Ty?
Well, if you say so. No, that is true.
It can't change the concept. Yes, sometimes, guys, you may learn more intricate examples, and you may go into more detail with some of the concepts that you learn. For example, even in grade 9, you learned about the ear. You learned about the ear again in grade 12. But in grade 12, you learn much more about the ear than you did in grade 9. But these concepts, you can't learn more about it. This is the concept. It has a definition. You need to know an example. And if they give you an example, you must be able to say whether it's one of these three. That's as simple as that. Mutualism, parasitism, and commensalism. Those are the three that we have to look at there. Go back a little bit up. The human influence is how you and I influence this environment or the communities in which we live. How do we make a difference in this? And sadly to say, most of our influence is negative. Most of our influence is negative. In other words, it goes against nature and it has a destructive force in the environment itself. Lastly, community change, and there we look at two important concepts: primary succession and secondary succession. Again, that would be discussed a little later as we go along. But that, guys, on this page, on the screen rather, is what you need to know. If you can tick along all these things, you are ready for this portion of environment. Remember, the other portion of environment is population studies, population dynamics, and human populations. So you need to learn that as well, and a little bit about our ecological footprint and how it has an impact on the environment. That you can link to this as well. But remember, they are two separate issues. Going straight into the first part, and the first part, just to remind you, I'm going to go back all the time if I can, and the first part is social organization. And when we're looking at that, there we have it there. Ignore that part on the top there, symbiosis. Here we're looking at, we said hunting in packs. Here's the first one. A pack of wolves, when they hunt in packs, what's the advantages? Is this rocket science? Obviously not, guys. Sorry? Rocket science?
Nope.
No, not at all. This is simple common sense. It's obviously better to hunt in packs because the chances of catching the prey are greater. You corner the prey, you get them in a corner, you get one, and the pack shares the resource. The resource here being whatever they're going to catch and kill. Okay? So that's what happens there. Hunting in packs is an advantage for those organisms. In this particular example, we can actually talk about two separate issues here. Here we have the wildebeest on this side here, which are flocks or herds. So they together. The example you'll see in your textbook is that of zebras. And the zebras is a special case because of the stripy appearance of the zebras. And when they get together, it makes it difficult for the predator to follow them because they create these waves in the eyes of the predator. And because of this, the predator gets a bit hazy, and therefore they can get away if they can. So when we're looking at that, that's what's happening there. But at the same time, by having this lion in this picture, we're also showing, and this is not part of what we're doing now, this is about social structure, which we'll talk about later. This one, we can talk about predator-prey. Between the lion and the wildebeest is predator-prey or predation. But within this here itself is an example of herds or flocks. And even fish do that. Fish move in big schools. And look at this one here. Well, coincidentally, the fish that I chose are striped. So when bigger fish are chasing these, they will also get confused with the stripes. Same idea. So this is what we are saying. The idea is, I mean, guys, you know, even as human beings, if you were a member of a gang, you would move with your gang members. You won't move alone. Because if you move alone, then the other opponents, you shouldn't be part of a gang, by the way. You should be with friends and buddies, not gangs.
Maybe a dance crew.
Or dance crew also. They'll move together all the time because they share the same ideas. They share the same interests, so they'll move together. So in that way, when they move together from gig to gig also, they have a degree of protection wherever they go. So the same way, this is what we are trying to say here about these animals. And those that want to do other things, even a soccer team for that matter, would travel together in that way. Okay, here we're looking at the different social structures. Here, well, here we have the bees in a colony. We're going to look at this particular one. We're going to zoom into that one there. The bees in a colony here. And bees have, over and above what we've been talking about here, they have what we call the division of labor. The division of labor is predominant in the bees. The bees have a system of hierarchy in terms of their labor and where they are in the social structure. For example, you have the queen bee, who is, well, the queen, obviously, and she's the main part of the hive. Her job is to get fertilized and to lay eggs all the time. Beneath her, you have the worker bees or the drones, and their job is to feed the eggs and the hatchlings and so on. And then you have the males. Their job is to fertilize the female. That's all they have to do. We'll talk about bees when we have a question on them a little later. We move on now to symbiosis. And that again, I'm going to go back to that other one. Remember, I said I'll keep going back. There we go. When we're talking about community structure, we're talking about symbiosis is one example. We will look at these other two, predation and competition, in questions. So they will unfold as we go through the questions. So symbiosis, sym meaning together, and bio meaning life or living. So symbiosis means to live together, have a relationship with each other. And we're not talking about the relationship you're thinking about. We mentioned earlier that we have three. The first of those three is known as mutualism. And guys, this is the language thing. By now, you should know. And when we say this deal is of mutual benefit to us, that means it will benefit you and it will benefit me. So mutualism is when both species benefit. Both the species will benefit. They will live together in such a way that they have a relationship that both organisms will benefit. Look at this particular example here. This little bird is living closely with the crocodile. It does a toothpick job for the crocodile. In other words, it gets rid of all the debris between the teeth, and at the same time, the bird gets food, number one. The crocodile is getting a free dental checkup, if you want to call it that. Please don't write that in the exam. It's not a dental checkup, okay? The crocodile is getting rid of all the debris between the teeth, and at the same time, the bird also gets an added protection in terms of protection as well. The next one is commensalism. And here, one species benefits, the other is unaffected. In other words, the other species is neither harmed nor it benefits. And the last one, before we go for our break, and we'll come back with examples, is parasitism. In parasitism, one organism benefits and the other is harmed. So you can see the three tiers of this. Mutualism, both benefit. Parasitism, the other end of the continuum, one benefits, one is harmed. And commensalism, one benefits, the other neither benefits nor is harmed. Ty.
All right. So on that note, mindsetters, make sure you do not disappear. Make sure that you get your pens and pads out and you're ready for the next segment. So go do whatever you have to do. If you have to go to the bathroom, if you have to go get some drink, whatever you have to do, but make sure you come back. See you after this break.